So thanks again for joining us. Quick introduction. My name is Wes Fieldcamp. I'm a senior career advisor here, and I'm from the Central Career Center. We're located in Student Union Building 110, and I see there's students from all different majors today. You may have a major and school-specific career office that you can also work with. So if you haven't connected with the USC Career Center yet, we actually have an open house next Tuesday. So it's going to be running from 12 to 2 for undergraduate students and from 2 to 4 for graduate students. So that's been posted on our online calendar. So today we'll get started with tips for finding an on-campus job. But if you ever need support and have a question, we're happy to meet with you. All right, so let's get rolling here. The goals for today's session. So we are going to develop a step-by-step checklist for your on-campus job search. You're going to learn how to prepare for applications and understand professionalism during the process. We're also going to discuss federal work study versus non-work study roles and what eligibility looks like. And then I'm going to save some dedicated time for Q&A, but if you do have some questions throughout, feel free to pop a question in the chat. I'm going to do my best to answer them and handle it at the same time, but just so you know, we'll save questions probably for like the last like 10, 15 minutes or so. So thanks for contributing to the chat already. We're just going to start with a warm-up activity. And what I want you to do is, besides the obvious, I think we all like having extra spending money in our pockets, but what do you think are some of the benefits for students for working an on-campus job? So if you want to take a couple moments just to put in the chat. Any takers here? So the big thing is with the Career Center. Um, there we go. I think like what I'm seeing. So networking for sure. Um, Confidence, that's a great answer. Meeting new people, yes, 100%. Communication skills. So these are all things that these are resume builders, right? So one of the things that we offer is drop-in advising, and that's where you can actually stop by the Career Center every single weekday from 1 p.m. to 3:30. And during those hours, we tend to do a lot of resume review, but you can always make like a quick question session there. And an on-campus job is a great way to start kind of building that work experience that you're going to highlight, in future internships and job interviews. So moving forward, and just when you're getting started with your search, I think somebody mentioned the flexibility with class schedules. So do an assessment. Hey, when am I going to be available? Am I a morning person? Am I an evening person? Do I have a schedule where I have some flexibility at a certain hour? So assess your availability. So some of this stuff's pretty obvious, but again, time management is a critical skill that you learn in college and get to practice. Um, One thing to note, during the actual school year for fall and spring, most on-campus jobs are limited in scope, so it would be 20 hours per week, which is considered part-time. During the summer, it can look a little different. So full-time is generally like 36, 40 hours. Um, and then certainly, uh, part-time jobs, it's not exclusively on campus. I know today we're going to focus on the on-campus jobs. There's a lot of students that work at like the USC Village. But again, generally speaking, when we refer to part-time, it's like 20 hours or less. Full-time is closer to 40. Um, Before you begin applying, you're going to want to assess, hey, do I have the following? We'll talk a little bit more about resumes. Obviously, during these first 2 weeks, the drop ad period, if like let's say, hey, I've already applied to a job and you might make some changes with your schedule, just make sure that you're always providing like the most up-to-date copy just to be transparent. Um, some other things that may be required. So we'll talk about what a cover letter is. And then if you're a student who has a federal work study award, there's actually some documentation to verify that. And then additionally, just thinking ahead, we'll talk about this later, but when you actually onboard for a position, there might be some identification documents that are going to be asked of you. So if anybody's worked a summer job in the past, it's usually like a passport, driver's license. So we'll cover that more in detail later. Um, Bear with me here. So resume basics, just to get started here. Um, in terms of what it is, it's essentially just your introduction to the employer. I mentioned that we can help you at the Career Center with crafting a resume. I know a lot of you probably used one in your college applications, but for refining it for college and internships, that's a lot of what we do at the Career Center. And you'll see on the left here just a quick example. And it just showcases, hey, some basic information, contact info, your education, your experiences. And like I mentioned, an on-campus job is a great way just to build some of those like introductory skills. Definitely some of like the soft skills, communication, time management, attention to detail. And then if you ever need a sample resume, our website's pretty easy to remember. It's just careers.usc.edu. And on Handshake, actually, might as well just show you right now. So if you haven't accessed Handshake yet, that's just our campus job board. And you'll see, we'll go over search in a couple minutes, but um, when you go to the Career Center tab, you'll see you can access appointments. I mentioned there's a number of different career offices. So most of them will have their availability posted on Handshake. Some offices use their own school-based portal. And you can always go to the resource tab. We have resumes posted here. And then another really cool quick link is we have an on-campus jobs page here. So um, we'll get back to the deck. So cover letter, kind of an extension of your application. It's really just going to be your supplemental statement addressed to an employer, which it answers the question, why should they hire you? And it's narrative in format. It's not going to be as detailed as your resume, but it's kind of connecting the dots of if there's a position on campus that, let's say, like a social media assistant, and they want somebody that knows how to use TikTok and Instagram and knows how to work on a team. Generally, you're going to have an intro paragraph. Your body paragraphs are going to be just quick examples of, here's an example of a campaign I ran using a social media marketing tool. And here's an example of how I've worked on a team, whether it was through like a club, a prior job, class project. So not all positions will ask for a cover letter. If they do, definitely make sure that you're attaching it. And then within Handshake, the job descriptions, sometimes they'll have like specific requirements, like including your class schedule, supplemental, uh, like essays. So big thing, if you need help with a cover letter, we can definitely help you with that. but your goal is really you're connecting again your experience and skills directly to the job posting. I just showed you the Handshake resource library, but here's just a screenshot again. When you log into Handshake for the first time, you can go to the Career Center tab and then go to resources. And those samples, you can actually download. We have some like Word document versions, or there's a couple other tools on there that you can build a resume or cover letter directly online. But moving forward, we're going to talk about the types of roles that you might see some different eligibility requirements depending on the position classification. So first off is federal work study. And if any of you joined us last week, we actually host an on-campus job fair to kick off each semester. And federal work study, the short description of it is it's just an aid award for to fund employment for domestic students who demonstrate financial need. So what we'll do is we'll send out the slide deck so you'll see some of these bullets are hyperlinked to more descriptive articles. But for federal work study, it's something that when you get your financial aid summary, it'll be pretty clear on there. I've had some students in the past that, let's say, hey, I transferred from one institution to another. I got work study at one institution. I didn't get it at USC. If that happens, there's actually an appeal process too. I'm not going to go into it today because I'm not a financial aid expert, but that's just something to be aware of that, you always want to review your obviously your tuition bill and your financial aid award at the start of the school year. Um, One thing to note, and this is definitely something that's going on this year, is that a lot of departments may post positions that require federal work study. Um, and then if you attended last week's fair, there's actually technically some positions that qualify for a work study award that physically don't take place on campus. Those are just some nonprofit organizations. So usually every school year we have one example is like we have something called like step up tutoring, and that qualifies. But usually it's an organization that provides a community service. So you might, if you have a work study award, you might have a little bit of flexibility there. For non-work study, um, it's basically everything else. So these are positions that are open to students that don't have a federal work study award. And then one example of this would be our international students on an F1 visa. Um, One really good resource, if you fall into that cohort, is the Office of International Student Services, OIS. And we get this question all the time, but one thing just to be aware of is that there's a designated period if you're new to the US that you have to work on campus during that first school year. So I'm not going to be able to answer like very detailed questions about that today, but again, the OAS office is a Career Center partner, and they actually hold Zoom drop-in advising hours every single day. So we often refer for answers to that office. Um, and then the other thing to consider is, if you don't have a federal work study award and you're able to work off campus, we actually, I can show you on Handshake, but um, we often build out lists of employers that are located relatively close to campus. So again, usually that would be like restaurants, hospitality, customer service roles within like the USC Village. So a lot of students work at like Target, Trader Joe's. Um, so that's just a quick rundown. Again, federal work study positions, you need to be a domestic student and receive that award on your aid summary. And then non-work study is basically everybody else. So where are the jobs posted? So online, and if you attended last week's event, you may have interacted with an employer that just said to apply online. In a lot of cases, we try our best to house everything on Handshake, um, and that's essentially your campus job board. By all means, it's not the only place to look. Um, and I'm going to do a demo of this real quick, but within Handshake, we'll flip back to there. If you go to the Jobs tab, what we recommend doing is running a filter. So you'll see along the top here, um, you can click on part-time. And that's a good place to get started. But if you go into the more detailed filters, you can check off on-campus and student employment. And then if you have that work study award, definitely make sure to check that. If I don't have it, I just want to see all the positions, I can click apply. And then this is going to give you a fairly comprehensive list. Now, one disclaimer here, and this actually literally launched like this week, but you may see within Handshake, there's a basically like an agentic search where it's kind of similar to like ChatGPT. While this is getting like kind of sorted out, we still recommend using filters to get the most accurate search results. But this is kind of cool. I was trying it out earlier. You can just type in, "Hey, I want a part-time work study job at USC," and it does a fairly decent job. But again, the filters are the best way to go about it. I think we have a question. Oh, thanks for the can someone mention in the chat whether you can see Handshake or not? Oh, okay, here. Let's my apologies. Let's try running the screen again here. Can you let me know if it's showing through now? Okay, perfect. So let me backtrack and my apologies. Thanks for that. Um, for Handshake, when you get started, you're probably going to see this explore page. So that's going to show you some job results. Um, you'll see you can even see like suggested job searches and you can click part-time here. Another thing that we do is for career fairs, and then I think for the on-campus job fair, we might be developing the list, but there's this thing called collections. I'll show you when you go to the jobs tab. So what I was verbalizing earlier was when you go into the job search tab, run a filter. So along the top here, you can click part-time. You go to filters. If I want part-time, on-campus student employment, and I have the option of work study versus non-work study. So like, let's just say I wanted to see the widest range of positions. I can click apply, and then you'll see it's going to give you a fairly comprehensive list. Now, because it's the spring semester, you're probably not going to see as many opportunities as you would. Um, there's like kind of peak hiring that happens before a school year starts, but you're going to see, a number of different opportunities here. A couple things just to be aware of is like we were talking about federal work study. Here's a position from IT, and you'll see it'll mention in the position, is US work authorization required? Is it on campus? Is it part-time or full-time? Is it work study eligible? So it's just important to be mindful of the job description. And you'll see like in this specific example, like it's even referencing like remote work. And then it's even mentioning, hey, make sure to submit a copy of your class schedule when you apply. So um, that's just a quick snapshot of Handshake. Let's flip back to the slide deck and let me see. Let's take a moment just to answer a couple questions. Um, we have a question about international students finding on-campus jobs with having a social security number or work study. Okay, so we're going to address that specifically in a couple slides, but I think I've got a couple questions about that. Um, we're gonna move forward, but I have a couple detailed slides on that. So um, again, so Handshake, you saw how to run the search, and then departments and advisors, they might post. I've seen a few postings actually in the last week, specifically on like Advise USC, but sometimes departmental websites will list opportunities as well, or certainly sending out kind of listserv emails. Um, there's another resource uh, within Handshake called Find on Campus Jobs, and that actually takes you. Let me show you. Can everybody see that on the screen? Um, I can drop this in the chat as well. So we have a centralized resource on the Career Center website. So if you ever visit careers.usc.edu, you can go to career planning and go to on-campus jobs. And we actually show you, this is just an article that we've been compiling over the last couple of years. And it lists the different offices that typically hire students. So in some cases, some of these units might not post on Handshake. And like one example, I think I've seen some signs around campus for orientation leaders, but definitely this is worth checking out. And then within that article on Handshake, we also have some information. Let me see if I have. I want to put this in the chat just so y'all have it. But for students on an F1 visa, this is just like kind of the rundown from the OAS office. Cool. So, um, again, like finding on-campus student jobs, that resource page, it lists a lot of the departments that typically will hire. Um, and then just around campus, I would say checking the Daily Trojan. If you're in the residence hall, like bulletin boards, sidewalk signs. Um, and then this is something I see a lot at the Career Center because we hire students and just networking with your classmates. And then if you ever go to like a professor's office hours, sometimes like a referral, and the referral being, somebody basically recommending or vouching for someone else. Um, that's kind of a great primer to, what you're going to be doing regardless, like later on during your internship and full-time job search. So networking and just again, like um, we talked about the benefits of an on-campus student job, but if you're new to campus, as you meet people, like ask around if you went to the involvement fair, and that's going on today and tomorrow as well. Um, those are great places to find out about who might be hiring too. We talked a little bit earlier about filtering on Handshake, but this is just another reminder, specifically if you're looking for on-campus student employment and work study roles. And then I mentioned last week we had the on-campus job fair. So the way it works in spring is it's actually virtual on Handshake. And then we actually host, so the Friday before the start of the fall term, so it's like literally right at the end of move-in week, we host it on Truesdale Parkway. And that's literally the same location. Involvement fair is taking place right now, as well as the spring career fair. We're going to do another one in April. So the next event, and like I said, sometimes there's a little bit more, there's more opportunities when folks are like graduating or moving on. So Wednesday, April 8th from 1 to 4 p.m. And we'll promote it more on social media and on Handshake and on the website. But if you want to mark that on your calendar, that's just going to be the next event. And then tips for navigating this type of event. The difference between the on-campus job fair and the career fair is it's okay to come as you are. It's not as formal. So there's not really an expectation of, wearing like a suit, a tie. Um, and then certainly just like the full-time career fair and the internships expo, bringing copies of your resume can be helpful, but a lot of times they might just say, hey, apply on our website or apply on Handshake. But it's a good practice just to have some resumes with you. So we talked about networking being pretty important. Here's some quick do's and don'ts of applying and networking. So do visit the Career Center or a Career Center on campus with any questions, and then leverage your resources. I showed you Handshake, the website. Um, Plan ahead. So we mentioned earlier about checking your financial aid awards and then just the requirements that are on the specific job postings. And then professionalism, just a couple of notes about that. Um, Sometimes we'll get applicants using their non-USC email. If you're using a non-USC email, just make sure it's an appropriate one. It's probably easiest just to use your student email. But the other thing too is that a lot of times they'll email you to invite you to an interview, but sometimes they might go old school and call you. So making sure that you have your voicemail box set up, cleared, and then oftentimes it's a good idea just to personalize that too. Um, so those are some do's. Some don'ts. This is something we get every semester, and networking should be done with intentionality. We just suggest not mass emailing uh, individual staff members. So we'll have students pull up a departmental directory and just send the same email. And it's more or less it's like kind of reflecting negatively upon you. It's kind of showing like that you're not being intentional with it. So again, try to find an appropriate point of contact. Usually if you email like the department, like centralized email, or if, you're more than welcome to visit like a front desk at like the career center, but some offices might have uh, someone there. And we just suggest not mass emailing to try to find positions. Similarly, we call this the spray and pray method. As you can tell, it's don't send out an application to every single office without reading the specific requirements. We often see students that are master's students applying for roles that are really for undergrads, or students that don't have work study applying to work study roles. Again, the most effective method of going through this process is, making sure you read the specific eligibility requirements. If they ask for a class schedule, make sure to include your class schedule, because if you don't, you're probably getting screened out of that applicant pool. And then just making sure, be mindful of the deadlines too. And then another thing we're seeing a little bit more of is just lack of like proofreading. Um, we have, these wonderful generative AI tools now, um, especially with cover letters. If you're using it, and we're not against it by any means, but just make sure to edit the output. Um, you want to make sure that it doesn't lose your personal voice because, the reviewer can pretty much tell if it's been generated, if it sounds kind of cookie cutter. So again, that's a great prompt for meeting with a career advisor and just learning the appropriate way of using some of your resources before sending out an application. Um, Let me take a moment here, see if we can answer a couple more questions because we got a couple more in the chat. Okay, so I think we had another question regarding how international students can apply to on-campus jobs. I'm gonna um, cover that in one of the next upcoming slides. So we'll go back to the slide deck here. Cool. So one quick point about just after your application. In terms of next steps, uh, in terms of being patient, here's the thing is some departments might conduct their hiring on a rolling basis. And what that means is they'll just, if they get a qualified candidate, they'll reach out as soon as they review, right? Others will wait and just basically review the entire applicant pool. So that's going to be on a case by case basis. Um, let's see. We just had a quick question. So some job postings only allow one document upload. Is it best to add work study info directly into the resume? Um, that's a good question. So if there's only one document upload, sometimes what you might do is you might save everything as like a PDF. And that's, I've seen applications where actually they request that. So it would be like resume, cover letter, class schedule. The second part of your question about putting work study eligibility, I'm not sure if you necessarily need to print out your work study letter and attach it. The biggest thing is like if 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 you're not eligible, they'll know that by the time they need to onboard you. So, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the onboarding process in a moment, but it's a good question in terms of like filling out your application. Sometimes you might need to combine into a single document. So usually that'd be like a PDF. Um, Here's the other thing. If you don't hear back in like a reasonable amount of time I would say is probably 2 to 3 weeks. You can certainly follow up with a brief email, just to the point of contact listed on Handshake if they are there. If they're not, you might be able to consult the career center or somebody in the department to find out who you can reach out to. But what that might look like, if you need like a sample brief email, it might just be like, you know, hello, hiring manager. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to follow up on my application for the student intern role that I submitted. I'm still very interested in the opportunity and would love to hear if there are any updates on the hiring timeline. And, thank you for your time and consideration. So as you'll see, it's a pretty brief just reminder and nudge. And that's totally appropriate. And again, um, give it at least like 2 or 3 weeks before you resort to that. I think we had another question in the chat. Do the career services offices at every college offer advising for securing major specific internships? Yes, I'm going to direct you to, there's actually a workshop that's happening immediately after this on the internship search. But if you're new to campus and you haven't met with your school-specific career center, generally it's going to be focused towards those types of things. So, and the added bonus is a lot of these career centers also hire for part-time on-campus jobs. our topic today. Cool. So let's talk about interviews. And I'm going to we'll answer one more question here. Is it okay to add your undergraduate education in your resume if you're a new graduate student? Yes, by all means. So like in terms of, let's say you're a master's student, your resume is going to be sort of that reverse chronology of your experiences. So if you have any questions about resume, definitely, check out our guides online or you can come to a drop-in hour. Um, Real quick, we'll talk about briefly interviews because I want to save enough time for some extended Q&A at the end. But for interviews, before an interview, uh, consult the Career Center if you need help preparing. We have practice questions posted online. And then in that Handshake resource library I showed you, there's actually some tools where you can run some like self-guided mock interviews. Um, the other thing too is just map out the interview location. Sometimes, and it's by no fault of your own, but like sometimes because there's so many career centers on campus, we'll have students come to our office when they really schedule with another one. So generally, the address is going to be on there, and I think we're all understanding if you're new to campus, but it's a good idea just to be proactive in that manner. And then if you're interviewing on Zoom or by phone, just make sure you write that number down in case you have any like connectivity issues you need to follow up. And then for interviewing virtually in general, it's a good idea to identify a quiet place with a good internet connection. If you need an interview room, the Central Career Center and Student Union Building 110, actually, we have a basement level where we actually have interview rooms that you can reserve. So that we just have a quick form on our website you can fill out for that, or you can stop by our front desk. The day of an interview, um, again, we were talking about attire earlier, where like the on-campus job fair, definitely uh, t-shirt and shorts is okay. Interviews, you want to be a little bit more formal, so that's usually like a dress shirt at minimum. Um, Nothing flashy or revealing. So we're actually going to be doing some professional attire sessions at the end of this month, but generally that's going to be a little bit more formal. And then again, like arriving on time is going to reflect really positively on you because if they want to hire you and they want somebody reliable, that's your first way of showing that. And then after the interview, definitely thank them for the opportunity. You can send a brief thank you note similar to the one I showed you before, but obviously it would be just thanking them for the opportunity. And then you can follow up within that appropriate time frame. And then here's the thing too, and I've actually hired someone where they didn't get the job the first time, but a positive impression could lead to future opportunities. So we've definitely hired students that may have interviewed before and we just didn't have enough spots for them. And they were the first people we reached out to when we had another opening. So again, that's kind of that professionalism and being prepared during an interview. So here's a little bit more, and this is going to touch upon the couple questions we've gotten from international students as well. So when accepting the job offer, just make sure you understand the expectations. You want to provide the supervisor with your updated class schedule. You're going to establish a start date, and then depending on how many students that department hires, sometimes they'll do like what's called like a mass onboarding, which really what that means is like you're presenting the documents that you need and just kind of getting started with like um, the process of setting you up to get a paycheck. Um, and then, specific departments might have different requirements for training you for that job. For onboarding, the documents that you might need. And here's where it can vary. So for domestic students, generally you just need a couple different uh, forms of ID. So usually it's your driver's license, student ID, uh, and then usually a passport is good. There's a couple of different uh, you'll see in this link, uh, which we'll send in the slides that there's other options, but that's what usually most students use. For international students, it's a little bit more complex. So in terms of like when you receive an offer, you have to provide either the Social Security card if you already have one. If you're new to the US, the process is it's outlined in full on the OAS website, but if you don't have a Social Security number, what you have to do is you first have to obtain a letter from the hiring department, which is your offer, and then you have to receive an enrollment verification from OAS. Then you have to visit, there's a local Social Security Administration office, which is just north of campus. And when you apply for a Social Security number, you actually obtain a receipt. And the receipt is what the hiring manager would need to basically move forward with that onboarding process. So again, I'm only touching upon this briefly. We're going to refer to some of these resources that outline in a little bit more detail, but that's just another um, example of like there's uh, like work study positions and non-work study positions, and then um, once you get onboarded, there's a couple different steps specifically for like domestic and international students. Um, if you don't find an on-campus job right away, consider some of the following backup options to continue building experience. Again, we're talking about like resume builders. Um, consider like on-campus research. So one like central database is just research.usc.edu. There's plenty more, but for today's purposes, I think that's a good example of like we have a lot of students that work in labs. Service learning. I think they might even have a table at the involvement fair this week, but there's something called the Joint Educational Project. They have a building that's located on 34th Street, um, kind of where the intersection of Truesdale, so like Taper Hall, just beyond that, before you get to like the USC Village. They have a really cool resource and they have like service projects. They hire students, so their website's worth checking out. And then think about co-curricular activities. Um, so recognize student organizations, fraternity, sorority life, student government. The cool thing is like if you join, let's say like student government, they actually have paid officer positions. So, you know, that you could leverage that to a part-time job at some point. So these are just some considerations, especially during a spring semester. We're going to acknowledge it. It can be challenging just because there's fewer roles posted, but that's kind of how you can expand your search. And then I mentioned earlier the involvement fair. If you can't make it to the involvement fair, if you're like a remote learner, Campus Activities has a website called Engage SC, which they've probably, you know, told you about during orientation, but that's another place to look. So, with that being said, just to respect student privacy here, I'm gonna stop the recording. So we're gonna do the Q&A.